This is always ready, Matt Cardona, the internet champion, the $1,000 broski, the Michael Jordan of wrestling beer collecting. And listen, I'm way too fucking busy being a deathmatch king to be a guest on Wrestling Cheers. So the least I can do is open up the show. So welcome to Wrestling Cheers, you fucking marks.
Making your way in the world today takes everything you got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You want to go where you can see that troubles are all the same. You want to go where everybody knows your name.
And welcome back to Wrestling Cheers, where everybody knows your name, especially when you are part of the APA. This is Wrestling Cheers. We like to talk about things going on in the Northeast Ohio independent wrestling scene. We preview shows, we review shows, and sometimes we even have interviews along the way. This is a review of AIW's Damn. I'm your host, Justin Summers, and Wrestling Cheers is brought to you by Midwest Territory. Please rate, review, and subscribe your ever listen to this fine podcast, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Amazon Music, or Podbean, WrestlingCheers.podbean.com. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, Facebook.com/WrestlingCheers, Twitter.com/WrestlingCheers, and Instagram.com/WrestlingCheers. Email, if you so choose to desire, WrestlingCheers@gmail.com. Like I said, this is a preview of AIW's Damn. I've already introduced myself, and it's been a while since he's been on a regular episode, a regular preview review, but we have JGold.
Hey, good to be back. And again, the studio looks lovely. I like what you've done with the place, and thank you for having me back on again.
Yeah, just don't get me sick.
Nope, I'll try to keep that to myself. That's a sunk cost and the price of driving all the way out to Ohio, 8 hours and back. So I promise you won't be. No one else is getting sick. It's just a cold.
Yeah, because I'm going to be making the same trip ish out your way.
Listen, Old Bridge, where you're headed, way far away from me, and way far away from the Mecca over in Richfield Park. So I think you're going to be A-OK down there. You're going more towards the southwest Jersey. So I think you're going to have a good time at that show, and not a lot to do there, but enough wrestling. I think that'll keep you entertained.
This will actually be, I think, my first independent show in New Jersey.
Besides the shows for Mania weekend?
I didn't go that year.
Oh, I missed out.
Yeah, I went to Orlando.
Well, Old Bridge is not like Orlando. I can tell you that much. It'll be enough. You'll go in. It's very suburby. It's very strip mall-y, and that's really it. I mean, you'll see your show wherever it is, and kind of turn around and go home. I wish there was more to kind of tell you to go do, but I don't think there's much.
Yeah, it'll still be fun, but I think I didn't realize until like recently that I've never seen a show in Jersey, and I've seen like a lot of shows like outside of Ohio. So,
well, I assume that next year for WrestleMania in Philadelphia, some people are going to make the trek out here, and most of those shows will probably be in New Jersey, the collective, since it's where H2O's school is, and their arena is probably 20 minutes outside of Philadelphia. So I assume a lot of things are going to be run either in Atlantic City or in Watertown or wherever that Tremont school is.
I want to know for that WrestleMania, who's going to run ECW Arena?
Oh, you could bet GCW will probably get their hands on that place, unless they do some sort of Impact or MLW show that the weekend, the week before. But I don't know. I would assume GCW is going to grab it for that Thursday night, maybe for several shows.
Yeah, because that's the spot for any show. Like whoever decides, or if a lot of shows decide to run there, like something similar to the collective. Like,
you better make sure that you're going to fill that place. You can't have one of those half-assed collective, 40 people for, Pizza Party Pro or something where they only get it, their fans there. You're going to have to make sure you sell that place out if you're going to book it.
Yeah, I would think with like that area, like that shouldn't be that hard,
Yeah, you would have thought the same for California, and yet a lot of those shows on the collective that Thursday and Friday look pretty sad. So, people are kind of 2-day WrestleMania really does kill it, I think, especially with SmackDown. So you have SmackDown and both nights of WrestleMania and the Hall of Fame Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That kind of kills a lot of money and a lot of vibes for people to go to collective shows.
Yeah, the 2-day WrestleMania thing is something I thought about when it comes to like those shows. Because like for me, like when I went to Orlando, let me see, we drove down there, I think a Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Just ran around all day Thursday. I went to bed because I was pretty fucking beat. And then my friend Kevin that I went with, AIW fan Kevin Watson, like he went to the first spring break, and then I think there was another show at that late at night too. I can't remember what it was. Friday we, WrestleCon and a bunch of shows. Saturday was mostly just Ring of Honor, and then Sunday was WrestleMania. Like,
oh, the New York was the last one day, so Orlando was the year before, right? 2018.
No. Orlando was 2017.
Okay. So that was the one with the Hardy Boys return, right?
Mm-hmm. And actually, that Friday we went to the WrestleCon Super Show, main evented by the Hardy Boys and the Lucha Brothers. Ring of Honor, main evented by the Hardy Boys and the Young Bucks, and then the Hardy Boys come back at WrestleMania. Like, I literally
was that PCO's coming out that weekend at the Janela Spring Break, or was that a different old timer who got a run off of that? Was that still Flow Slam years, Orlando, or was that already? That was
Flow Slam, but
it had to be PCO.
Yeah, I do want to say that might have been like the big PCO year. Yeah, because
Keith Lee and
we went to, because I remember where all the Flow Slam shows were at the same place we went to Evolve, and then we went to Progress. The thing that I love about that is like Progress and Evolve, granted, same venue with like an hour or so in between, of maybe even a little bit longer from when the show ended and the doors open for the next show. Like Evolve, I mean, it was packed with their fans, but Progress was way bigger.
Progress is the English company?
Yeah.
Yeah. Those days are so long gone. It's we talked about this the other night with bulking season on IW Guide, that those days of those super cards, the super shows are gone because of AEW really cannibalizing and WWE cannibalizing all the indies, and then a lot of the indie companies can't afford it anymore to run in those places and pay travel, and it's become so hard to get to recapture that. Those feelings were great. Wrestling was independent wrestling was such a strange, quirky peak in like 17 to like 19. There were just so many good things that they were able to put out, and it just kind of got sucked up by 2 nights of WrestleMania.
I think that'll all come back over time. It's just new people have to become stars and all that. Like that's like the cycle that I've noticed with independent wrestling. Like,
you got to get the money down. As soon as when the airlines go down and the hotel rooms start going down again, you'll be able to get more. Wrestling promoters will be more willing to pay for guys to come in. But as long as the gas is so high, so the plane travel is so high, so the hotel rooms are so high, it just kind of ruins. That's why you don't see as many big names flying into Cleveland. It just doesn't pay. It's not cost effective at all to have people fly in anymore.
And that's why companies gotta make the new guys.
Yep. That's true.
Or you got to pull them from closer. Like, I mean, it sucks that like even with AIW that we don't even get like CPA, and that's not a flight, that was a drive. Like, granted, like it's partially because of how expensive gas is, but
yeah,
I'd love to see CPA back. I would love to see VSK back.
Oh, every time I see CPA in Long Island at Creative Pro, I ask him when he's coming back. I know he'd love to one day. I'm sure it'll happen. I think it's just, AIW has such a full, slate of their new guys that, you're not going to sit one of your students, you're not going to take that experience away from your students. So, it makes sense on a lot of levels where AIW has been pumping out some of these big, we'll talk about them tonight, but their students really have really stepped up and filled the card up.
Yeah, this will be another year too without another new talent initiative. It just kind of shows you like where AIW is compared to 2018, 2019.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't really need it. You don't really need a new talent initiative when you have, a class of 5 or 6 guys who all, seem to be hitting the mark. So,
all right, let's get into this show. First thing we always got to start off with was meet and greet. You didn't really do any meet and greets, did you?
No, I already met Ron Simmons at Comic-Con one year, and he couldn't have been nicer. I didn't need to go ahead and meet him again.
Yeah, I met him. I think we might have talked about it last week, but basically I had the Farouk Assad figure that I picked up a number of weeks ago, found it in the store, so I wanted to get that signed, and actually had a friend of mine drop off a figure that he wanted for me to get signed for him, and he ended up paying me back. So I did the meet and greet that I was already planning on doing, and then added that signature for him, which he got. He was like just a classic Superstars Ron Simmons figure. So that was like really. Yeah,
I was going to ask you, where'd you have him sign it? Was it loose or was it in a package? The Farouk.
Oh, like mint on card. Got.
Oh, okay.
If you're getting something signed, like it almost has to be mint on card, because that when you can display it, like especially like hanging, like it just looks so cool. But
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I made sure I did that. And then I wanted to get a picture and an 8x10 from Steph DeLander. The shit she's been doing with Cardona, like online, like the YouTube shit is fucking, or just videos in general, because it's also on like Twitter and everything. Like, oh my God, like so fucking hilarious. And it's this like really cool odd couple thing.
Well, she's as TV ready as you can be. I mean, you know, you can tell. You know, she's when she's in the ring, she knows where the hard cam is. She knows her gimmick. She knows what's needed of her. You know, she's very impressive as far as presentation goes. So, you know, he couldn't have found somebody more perfect besides, you know, Chelsea to fill that heater role for him. So it's working out very well, especially, you know, she's an Aussie and the fans, you know, automatically do go right into patriotic mode and, you know, all that stuff. So good for her. I mean, she really does. She's doing a good job, and you know, it's good to you know, it's a cool piece to the collection if you can get a good 8x10.
Yeah, that's something that I was more that I've seen of her. Like, all right, I'm comfortable trying to get an 8x10.
Yeah.
So I think that's it. There is a surprise later in the show that I went and talked to them at intermission, but we'll mention that later. But other than that, like, that was pretty much it. I didn't meet Fred Rosser. Like, I like the primetime.
Oh, I forgot about him. Yeah, I didn't meet him either.
Yeah, I think that was pretty much it. Like, talked to Cardona for a second. That was it. So we actually had some pre-show matches.
Yeah.
Well, let's kind of get into those.
Yep.
The reason why I say kind of is because I really wasn't paying attention. Like, we were talking during one of them.
I think it was the
tag match.
It was the tag match. Yeah, PB and I'll let you lead it off. You want to lead off who's in that one? Yeah,
it was PB and Brian Carson, who have now announced that their tag team name is going to be Wrestling.
Yeah.
So do with that what you will. Versus Vic Vice and Hendrik Hawkins. So
yeah, I mean, it was a pretty standard tag match. I think first of all, I don't know if I'm the only one, but I love PB's entrance music so much. But it came out a little low, so I didn't realize the match was starting because I think the mics were down a tad just before it started. But yeah, I mean, him and Carson, it works. Carson's really, really abrasive, and everybody hates him. And PB too, he can be a really good just asshole. And you know, I honestly, for what we saw and what we were standing there for, it was good. It helped get the crowd pumped up. You know, H2 V2 are they're coming along. They're coming along as a tag team. I'd like to see more of them solo, but yeah, pretty good simple match to lead off. Felt very much like a dark match on a Monday Night Raw or something like that. So that was cool.
Yeah, unfortunately for H2 V2, they did not come out victorious. It was Brian Carson and PB Smooth picking up the win. And then we also had Austin James versus Tyson Riggs.
Yeah, I really do love Austin James. I feel like he could be like a baby Derek Dillinger one day. He's thick. He's got like a really hard hitting moveset. Tyson Riggs, I'm still not completely sold on either way. You know, his gimmick, what he comes out to and everything is fun. But I really do like Austin James. I think he's got a lot of potential.
I don't know if people would consider this an insult or a compliment, but I feel like, you know, Tyson Riggs is the next Dr. Dan. There is just that aura of Dr. Dan where all he had to do was like come out and it kind of pissed you off. And I feel the same way with Tyson Riggs. Like that's not something everybody has.
Well, Dr. Dan had and I didn't, when I first came to AIW and seeing Dr. Dan, he immediately connected, and he had this he had a very strong connection to the crowd. I don't know if Tyson Riggs has that right now. I think right now people just kind of dislike him in general. He's smug, and he's not in a character way. So I don't know if he's going to find that Dr. Dan, almost like a ironic hatred that people had of Dr. Dan. They just like to hate him, but they still loved him. He's got a long way to go if he wants to get there.
Another way he reminds me of Dr. Dan, and it also lumps him in with another wrestler, that as soon as they came out for their first match, they knew who they were. Like they actually did a little bit of character work. A lot of wrestlers when they debut, and this is not a knock on any of them, is it's just, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm a wrestler. Dr. Dan, Tyson Riggs, and Frankie Flynn were all three wrestlers, in my opinion, when they first walked out, they actually had some sort of character to them, and not like, oh, I'm just, like I said, I'm a new student, and my name is John Doe.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not sold on him yet, but I'll give him a chance. I'm all for. It's not like I'm going anywhere. I'll give him a chance to develop and see how he does. So we'll see.
I mean, it's not like he's the top person in the class for me.
Right. Yeah. You're 100% right.
Yeah. I just see a little bit of value in him. It's just going to see what he adds to that over time. Cause even Dr. Dan and now Frankie too, they started out with something and they really were able to build on it. And I think there is a lot of potential with Tyson Riggs. I think most of this match, I was actually talking with Derek about some shit.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm a big Austin James fan, so I watched that one carefully. I really do think if he changed his tights up a little bit instead of that softball outfit, I think once he figures out what he wants to be, I do think he'll be kind of like a baby Derek.
Hear that, Austin? Start getting tattoos.
You don't have to tattoo your body, Austin. You don't have to do that. As my mom said after I got my third, she was like, you don't have to do this, but if you like, what you see there and you think that moveset can work for you, I think Austin can pull off the tights that Derek's got going on there. We'll see. Maybe he'll go full Abe Knuckleball shorts on us and put on the face paint.
That's a reference. It was Tyson Riggs getting the win. I think Derek said that was his first win.
I think it was, yeah.
I think that's his first regular show win. Because I thought he beat Shaw Mason at Worcester, or not Worcester, Wadsworth.
Oh, the outdoor thing.
Yeah, the Wadsworth show.
Oh, okay.
The show that just hit Fight Plus. I think it did hit recently, and it was literally the weekend before AIW left Smart Mark.
Oh, trying to remember where that was. Where was that show?
Wadsworth.
No, but I mean, what was it? Was it a bar?
Oh no, it was outdoor.
Oh, okay. I don't remember. I don't think I ever watched it.
So yeah, I don't know if they count that win or not, but other than that, that might be his first win. Because it's we don't talk about that because he won and Shaw lost. Because I remember at that point, that shocked me. I'm like, oh shit, Shaw Mason lost.
Yeah, I like Shaw a lot.
So sorry to everybody on the pre-show. Didn't get a lot of notes. I wasn't even at my seat because...
I think we covered it. I think the pre-show matches were short and they were made to just kind of get the crowd going. And I don't think that crowd needed any help getting going that night, which was cool. Mm-hmm. My first time at Tadmore, so it was very cool to see how packed. And the crowd is completely different than the Cleveland crowd, which is even cooler.
So have you only been to Cleveland shows?
No. I went to the Brook Park Rec Center. I've been to Ohio Nets. I've been to that church for UXWA. That was when they did when they had what's his face? I forgot. I've only been to. I only went to Odeon. I went to let's see, Mount Carmel, the Odeon, Brook Park, Ohio Nets. Oh, Parma for Lakewood, right? The one that we just did, the one in November. I saw that out there. So I've been all over the place.
Okay.
Yeah, I will tell you, I love the Odeon the best, but I still I've been to a bunch of different places, but this was the first time in Akron, so that was cool.
I do really like the new Cleveland venue.
Yeah, I'll be definitely in for that this summer when they're running, whichever month that is.
Because I mean, granted, they got a lot of shit to work out, but the fact that like some of the things that I don't want to say I complain about, like I put value in, like I want a lot of room for the merch area because I want to be able I want to be able to walk around easily. Like it doesn't have to be like perfect, but there's just been like with Mount Carmel or even with the Odeon where it's just like it gets a little packed back there. And at Mount Carmel, it was just if you had to go from one end of the merch area, like say by the AIW entrance, all the way to the other end where the doors were, like you were battling people trying to get through too. Like it was horrible. But with the new venue, plenty of room.
Well, I like that I like hearing like, there's another room for merch. Like, so at Creative Pro, the only problem with Creative Pro when I go see them in Lynbrook, they have two venues. They have one like in Ohio Nets where they have this gigantic, like you're in like a softball field and there's so much space to get merch. And then in Lynbrook, they have a separate room. It's like a bar room where they have everybody sitting in there to get their merch. And that's very cool, but it gets very crowded because there's only one way in and out. But the venue last night, but Akron wasn't bad. I thought the merch there was room. I think the more crowded that place gets, the harder it definitely is to get at things. But I would assume if there's only 3 rows instead of 4, it's easier to get stuff. If there's but I was happy to see it as crowded as it was.
Where the meet and greet line is, I mean that's where it, I don't want to say becomes an issue, but like when you have somebody like Ron Simmons or when they had Scott Hall there and literally
that was madness. Yeah. That meet and greet line was madness on Saturday night to get to, I think he was still taking last photographs at like the 3rd match.
Yeah. Which I'll get in before we get into the other matches. I will mention this because I don't have an exact memory of the matches that it would happen, but there were times that he was sitting at the table and he wasn't doing the meet and greet. As in, there was nobody up there. If someone came up, I think he would have did it. But he was kind of giving his own commentary. And like there was some criticism stuff thing where there was multiple times in a few matches where he was like, that looked fake. That looked fake. But there was another match in particular, and this is like, to me, just counterbalances everything. He jokingly said like, I think I would have to make a run in this match. Like that popped me.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard about that. He was, if you were sitting over there with Butters, right, and the crew, he was loving on a couple of those matches. So we'll get to those.
But all right, let's get into the proper AIW card.
Yep.
We got the Man Dime and Zach Nystrom, aka Money Shot, versus Bulking Season, Arthur MacArthur, and Chuck Stone. You did have Money Shot coming up and, shaking hands with the Duke on their way out.
Yep. I am not a huge fan of Money Shot. I was not blown away by this tag match, if you will. It kind of dragged for me. I don't like Money Shot. I think Arthur and Chuck are really good in certain scenarios, but their teams have to be the team they go against has to be different. So I think I don't want to bash Artie and Chuck because I think they're great, but I just don't think Money Shot brings out the best in Bulking Season. What
don't you like about Money Shot?
There's just something about him. It's just something that comes off that it's not genuine to me. But they're going to be around for a while. I'm assuming. I know they've been in the company for a bit, so maybe they'll change my mind. I got to see something more intense out of they need to be in a match against a team that's a little more intense. Chuck and Artie are great, but it's a different style to me. I think it's just a different style.
Who do you think they should go up against?
Who, Money Shot?
Yeah, that would give you that intense match.
It's a good question. It's a good question. If I'm going to go down the list, I don't know where they kind of fall in the pecking order. The main event would be good. Even To Infinity and Beyond. right now, I think even the Rip City Shooters, something like that, in like almost like a bigger, more slamming type of way, I guess. I like Artie and Chuck against like members only. I like them against PME. I like them against Bitcoin. But for some reason, Money Shot just doesn't sit right with me, and it's not. I'm not bashing them as their talent wise. It's just not my thing. But it is, they are what they are.
See if I can pull up Cage Match for AIW, because there's been a rivalry between Money Shot and TME at IWC, but
and I don't think Money Shot is at IWC anymore.
Neither do I. Well, you also have the main event kind of taken some time off as a team for a little while, but I want to say they've been in a match against each other at AIW, but I don't think it was a regular tag match. I think it was like a 4-way tag match. So I'm trying.
Could it have been with when the Bang Bros were there?
I believe so. It was AIW Jet Black New Year. And the main event won that one. And it was, Bang Bros were in there along with members only and Money Shot. The one that I think you kind of hit on the head, that I was like, ooh, that's actually a good point, is that them versus To Infinity and Beyond. Like you right now have Money Shot on their way to getting tag team title shot, whether it be next month after, like it's going to happen. Like at this rate, if they remain undefeated in 2-on-2 tag matches, I think a real test for them, because they just beat the former tag team champions.
Yeah.
I don't see them going up against PME. I don't necessarily see them going up against Rip City right now. I feel like they're occupied with other things. But To Infinity and Beyond, if you can get through in To Infinity and Beyond, maybe you really do deserve a tag title match. And we haven't seen To Infinity and Beyond in a while.
Yeah, I think old Colin's getting married soon, so I think it's gonna be a while before that.
I mean, Gauntlet is next month, and that could be enough time to get married. I think he's getting married next weekend. I don't know where they're spending their honeymoon, but why do I have a feeling it's Disney? Could be wrong. But come Gauntlet, that could be a nice little surprise, maybe even against Money Shot. Maybe we beat your teams. Like, it's time for our shot. Then you got To Infinity and Beyond coming. Like, nah.
Yeah, we'll see what Thorne's got up his sleeve for that one.
But yeah, I like Money Shot. I like where we're going with them as a team. I think there's some other stuff that could potentially happen with them. I'm waiting for that story to be told, though.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on this match?
Nope.
I didn't exactly get what happened. I think it was.
I think it was some shots to the ball bag, and Money Shot got the win.
Yeah, I know Money Shot got the win via pinfall. I think it was maybe Elijah Dean getting the pin on Artie.
Yeah.
And then I got a great picture of Zach Nystrom at the corner of the barricade taunting Chuck's dad.
Oh, nice.
Because that is one thing we got at the beginning of the match, because Chuck's dad just yelling shit, and then fucking Zach was yelling shit right back at him. It was great.
I like that. I like the interaction of fans with the fans in these crowds. All the fans, most of them at least, and I haven't seen a lot who don't know their boundaries, but most of them know their boundaries, and that's great.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Steph DeLander versus Ziggy Haim.
Yeah, this one was just fun, and the crowd going crazy for Ziggy was awesome. That was the kicker for me. It didn't matter what happened in the match. Her intro, where she came out just all fired up, and I was over on the other side by the hard cam, and I don't know if there were some of her friends were over there. They were all smiles. Everybody was so excited. I give, the match didn't matter as much to me as how much the crowd was behind Ziggy and how much they hated Steph DeLander, who did her job very well.
I think AIW as a whole has fell in love with Ziggy. And I mean that from her very first moment. She got a huge pop when she debuted at AIW. And it's
well, as long as she's nuts like she is, and Derek throws her around, and no, there is no other girl like her on the indies that does what she does. Like, Is there another female wrestler in the Indies who will whose tag team partner can literally torpedo them into other wrestlers, or their finish, the production's finish, that flipping, I forgot what Derek calls it, but that move is so sick. Like, there's not one other tag team on the Indies that does what they do, and that's what I think also like endeared Ziggy to everybody, is how much she's willing to go through it. So it's great. She's great. I love how much people enjoy watching her.
And it was like it was said too, like, she doesn't get a lot of singles matches in the IW. So to have that opportunity was fucking awesome to see. And I kind of forgot too that like Jocelyn wasn't on the card.
Yeah. I realized that when on my way out that I noticed that she was not on the card. But there's the AEW's always had one or two good women's matches that they've been able to put out for each show. So, if Steph Delander's going to lead the way, great. If Ziggy's going to lead the way, great. If Jocelyn is, if Katie Arquette, whoever they're going to get out there, they're good for at least one or two good matches on the card, and it switches it up a bit, and that's a good thing. Like,
I realized she wasn't on the card, but I just kind of forgot, like, during this show, as weird as it sounds. Like, for some reason, I thought she was part of this match, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's Ziggy, not Jocelyn, because Jocelyn was, she was hanging around for the show. Yeah, she's there. She helps out. Jocelyn, you can hear her making her comments about the matches. It's interesting. I sat over by her, and members only, and Austin James, listening to them kind of talk about each match, and it's also interesting to hear it from a wrestler's side. So it was very cool. I didn't hear her as much through this show. The time you hear her the most is during a Broner match. I love it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Steph, too. I'm getting more familiar with her. I like what she's doing with Cardona. It's kind of, what we mentioned before. She's been doing, YouTube stuff with him, and it's helping me as a fan, like, get more invested in what they're doing. And this works here too. And to be able to replace Chelsea Green and like not have it seem awkward is awesome, because the thing that I like too, it's not the same kind of chemistry for obvious reasons, but it's not like, oh, well, this is my wife who I love and all this kind of stuff, and she's hot. You can't have that dynamic. Instead, like, fucking Steph's more of a badass. So, she's a real heater for him. He doesn't have to call her anything but just his partner is just a badass heater, and it happens to be a woman, and it works. It was, do you have anything else to add to this? No. Steph Delander, she got the win via pinfall over Big Zig. Let's move on to the next one. Next up, we had the AIW Tag Team Championship Open Challenge. Of course, the Bitcoin Boys and the Duke get on the mic, and fucking the Duke roasted anybody who opened their mouth. Unfortunately, Reese was one of them. He said Reese smells like pee. Yeah. I love that. I was laughing so hard. Oh man, he was so fast, and he shut down those dudes. Anybody who opened their mouth, and at one point he was shutting down people so quick that fans were cheering for him. And Duke, as the professional as he is, turns around and gives me all, I don't need you people to cheer for me, and tears him apart. But I think the Duke's starting to go into the gray area. I don't think he ever was in AIW, and I think he is. I think in his older age and his more wiser abilities, I think fans are starting to love him, like almost like a curmudgeon-y old uncle who comes to your house on the holidays and causes trouble. I think people are starting to love him. I don't know if I'd go that far. Or let's put it this way. Just when you think you love him, he's going to do something to piss you off. I'm just waiting. I'm just pretty much waiting for that point, because, there was that point in time where, he was with Mance, and it was like, yeah, Duke's awesome. And here comes Jock coming back, and him and the Duke turn on Mance. So, well, I am almost at the point where I say every time the Duke comes out, I was like clapping like Eddie Murphy and the Nutty Professor. Hercules. I was loving the Duke tearing everybody apart. It was awesome. So we had this open challenge, and then there was all this roasting going on. But the Bitcoin Boys and the Duke said there were some there were some criteria that they had for people who could accept.
Stipulations.
Yeah. I don't remember all. I remember the last one because that's very important. They couldn't have been on the last card.
Right.
Or they had to be. No, they had to be. I can't even remember all of it. It was so much.
They had to be in the armed forces or something.
Yeah, there was
a bunch of stuff.
That was the big kicker, where it was they had to at one time be a part of the armed forces. Totally blanking on the other two, but out comes Wes Barkley first. And that was kind of mentioned on the preview about how he didn't have a match. Out comes after that Swoggle.
But the best part was you had like the X-Pac DX music kick, and you see John Thorne pushing Swoggle out from behind the curtain and giving him a crisp $100 bill that Swoggle casually tucks into his tights before he walks into the ring.
According to Thorne, that was a shoot. that is 100% real. That is exactly his reactions, because I think it was Monday, in the Major Wrestling Figure podcast group, somebody ironically posted a picture of the DX Army shirt that has Hornswoggle on it. And I was like, oh my God, we need a trademarked Army shirt. Because you had like Sean and Hunter and Swoggle like drawn on the front, and on the back it said DX Army. So I'm thinking like you could do TM Army and then try to find an artist, which I know they know enough of them. I should say Swoggle knows enough of them that someone could recreate it as Bishop.
It would be great. You could get
West.
JCP Designs to do it. He would do it perfectly.
Could get JCP. You could get artists by the name of TTD. You could get George Feast. You can get Johnny Clash. They do a lot of graphic people. So they have that. Fucking I might get a hold of George Feast and Johnny Clash, have one of them work me up one, because I think it'd be hilarious. But yeah, we ended up getting the trademark name Army versus the Bitcoin Boys. And
very entertaining.
I love Swoggle. Like, since the time that I interviewed him and like getting to know him a little bit more and more, just like when we see each other. On top of that too, like listening to his podcast that I recommend everybody go listen to. It's only once every 2 weeks. It's called Going Postal. It used to be an exclusive thing to the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast Patreon.
Right.
But they spun it off into its own podcast, and they started from new. It's not like, there's all these old episodes behind a paywall. No, they started with episode 1 and like kind of like are redoing things. And it's in a way too, it's a little bit different from the original format, because he now takes the interviews that he does on YouTube or that style and like puts them in the podcast. And that's even every other episode. So that's like once a month. But
that's cool.
Yeah. So I've got to talk to him a lot more. Even kind of what I was alluding to earlier of intermission, I went to go talk to him and just like bullshit with him about some stuff. And, nonetheless, just all around awesome dude. I'm happy that he's a part of the AEW family, and we get to see him, multiple times a year. And like the kind of matches he has, he's not someone that has these like crazy matches or anything like that. Like, he's now like a borderline comedy wrestler. He never goes full blown, but he'll have those spots because of his size. And I think it's hilarious every time.
Still think the best Swoggle match I ever saw was him versus Thorne at Absolution. The clothesline that Thorne hit him with was one of the sickest things I've ever seen. It was so funny. But yeah, that's definitely made for a fun night. People were excited about it, and I had no problem with the way that went out. I look forward to the Bitcoin Boys getting into a more serious feud, but this was fun for the night, and I knew where they were going with it because they had other matches on there that were so intense that you really didn't want to take away from, the rest of the card. So,
and I might have been called out by the Bitcoin Boys for, I don't want to say knowing who the opponents were, but I kind of said it on the preview. I'm like, yeah, like we knew Wes Barkley wasn't in a match, but he'll probably be there. And then I knew Hornswoggle was going to be in Hartville doing an autograph signing. So it would kind of make sense. Like, let's do this DX thing that has been joked around about since the Akron or the Canton Street Festival.
Yeah.
And I didn't think it would happen. I mean, I thought if you're going to have Hornswoggle on the card, you would announce him. Nope. So still fun to see, still fun moment. And I don't think people noticed it as much as I did. If you remember the last time Swoggle was at AIW, which was an Akron show, he went to go walk down those steps and he almost fell. Or no, he did fall.
He did fall.
Yeah.
He did.
This time he had a spot where like he almost did, but he like caught himself. He's like, whoa, and then like continued to walk down. So all good there. But yeah, hands down, fun match. Love the Bitcoin boys. Love name trademarked army or however you want to say.
Yeah.
It. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems like we're going to see more of this going forward by the looks of it. We'll get to that part later. But yeah, I find that interesting.
It was fun, and it I believe this was the last one before intermission, so a very good way to go to intermission.
Nope. We had one more match before intermission.
We did?
Yes, we did. Fred Rosser versus Dominic Greeny.
Oh, why did I think this was right after the... Oh, stupid me. Okay, yeah. Okay. My pal Dom Guarini and Fred Rosser in just a monstrous, thundering match. I don't know if you heard the story yet, but we went to the Deadlock Pro show last week, and Dom and Koo were coming out in the main event, and I went to go slap Dom a high five, and he just shot me into orbit over 2 rows of seats. So I had to go and cheer on my pal Dom. I didn't want to get hurt again. So I was cheering for him, and that's the first time I've ever seen Fred Rosser in a ring live ever. I've never seen one of his matches since he left WWE. And, anything Dom is in is all good with me, but that's the first time I ever saw Fred Rosser.
I mean, this just continues to be putting, Dom on a spotlight. He gets another big name match and, just kind of jump into it. Yeah, he pulls out the win.
Let's talk about that for a second. I know what they do with Dom, and I know where Dom stands in the hierarchy of AIW, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason. Maybe you do it in the summer or whatever. He's got to get the title. He has to. He has to get the title one day. I mean, there's like 3 guys that I think need to hold the AIW title within the next calendar year to 16 months, 18 months. And for me, it's Broner, it's Derek, it's Dom. Those guys, once Bishop is done with Cardona, whoever is the champ, Bishop will be the champ, either go up against Derek, Dom, or Broner. Even Wes. I'll give Wes up there too. So those 4 guys, I would love to see more from those 4 guys to shoot them up to the championship level, because I feel like sometimes I don't know where the champs are going to come from. But when I see a match like that from Dom, and I see everything that Isaiah Broner's done, and yes, they've lost some big matches, but they also have won some big matches. And Dom definitely deserves to be in that conversation, for the summer, even into the new year.
I'd rather see Dom win a tag team championship in AIW. Now,
that'll never happen.
I didn't say that I think it was good. I said that's what I'd rather see.
Yeah.
I think with Dom, I don't think he's ever going to become champion AIW. If my consolation prize would be, and I think people would be like, well, then if that's what you're saying, then it's going to be a waste. I would much rather see Dom win JLit. He could lose the cash in, have him, etch his name into the lineage of everybody who's won JLit, because I feel like that would have been an honor. And actually, if we'd still have the, Chandler Biggins Memorial Cup, that would be something that I would be 100% behind Dom winning.
That's a curious question too for this year. I don't know if they're going to have a whole class to do a fresh meat card. Maybe you go back to Biggins. Maybe you add a little bit of tag team action into that day. But I doubt you'll ever see Violence is Forever in AIW. But maybe you'll see Koo single. But Dom should get a singles title run. I just believe that. I fully believe he should be holding that title, even if it is for a month. Remember when Sami Zayn won in NXT? He really didn't hold it for that long. A month, 2 months. But just that one moment would be like when Tommy Dreamer finally won the belt against Raven. Like, it's there. It's right there.
But I think of the list of the people you mentioned, Dom's going to be at the bottom of that list of possibilities of winning the Absolute title. If I put my money on any of them, it would be Broner first. Derek.
He's hurt now, so he needs to kind of start from the beginning. That's where I'm not sure where that's going to come from.
Well, but at the same time, you have Derek on that list, and Derek is currently a champion.
I know, but that's the next logical step. I'm saying 14 months, you could see Derek as the world champ.
In that same amount of time, you could see Broner could do it.
As long as he comes back from injury and he can do what he does, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully Broner does get healthy. Did hear, I think it was in the IW Discord, there might have been a small setback that's going to put him out a little bit longer than originally thought, but not at a severe level of like he's going to be gone a while.
Yeah.
I think as of right now, Thorne did say post absolution, and you know what's post absolution? JLit.
JLit's going to be after absolution this year?
Last I knew, which could have changed, there were two Cleveland dates for the Odeon in September.
Okay.
So I would figure that would mean that now it's a new venue and it would be September, which I kind of like. It puts a little bit more distance between it and Gauntlet, and as well as it and Absolution, because before it was, and this was like, 5 years ago, Gauntlet was in March, JLit was in May, Abso was July. So that was all really close together. Now you have the opportunity, if someone wins JLit, they might hold on to that until Absolution. And it'll be a longer time if they did. But now, they could cash in a Hell on Earth. They can cash in the rap show. Like, there's a lot more possibility. So, but regardless, we are seeing a winning streak from Dom. And I'm curious where that takes him, because, I mentioned, post Absolution is JLit for Broner. And it's also time for Dom. And I think, too, something that we need to mention is that's next month. Number 1, Cybernetico de Mayo 2. Dom was the one that won it last year. He could easily do the same thing again. And, of course, Gauntlet. Yeah,
it could be – Gauntlet could be the opportunity for Dom. Could be the opportunity for Wes. I'm honestly Wes is red hot right now. As far as every time he comes out, the crowd goes nuts. So, I'm curious. I'm very curious for Gauntlet where they're going to go with that.
Any more thoughts on Fred Rosser and Dominic Grady?
No.
Yeah, like I said, Dom, I got the win via pinfall and handed the mic to Fred Rosser after the match. And I don't want to say that Fred Rosser cut a promo, but it was just, kind of like him giving some appreciation to the fans and what he's doing. Yeah.
I mean, I could honestly say, I don't know how many fans even remembered him. He's looked so completely different from his run in NXT. He's a completely different wrestler. He's a completely different personality. So going up there and talking and everything, that's good to at least give the fans a little bit of an idea. But I don't know how many people, even in the Akron crowd, would remember him.
I feel like a lot of people did, but I think he hasn't been talked about as much since, doing New Japan. Like, within that circle and everything, yeah, but, like, people aren't talking about Fred Rosser the same way they are or they were Matt Cardona.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock towards Fred Rosser, because I think
it's a different style. I mean, he's not an Indies guy, Fred Rosser. He's a New Japan guy, and there's a complete difference there. Like, Cardona now has ingrained himself into the independent world, and Fred Rosser is one of the head trainers at New Japan's dojo. So, it's a completely different world and personality and skill set.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
And then after this, we did get a little bit of Ron Simmons coming out talking about, being back in Northeast Ohio. And I never knew Ron Simmons was part of the Browns. I guess it was only like practice squad, but still.
Apparently he was drafted by the Browns.
Yeah. So yeah, I never even knew that, but cool kind of moment, of course. Got to find a way to fit in Ron Simmons saying damn. So that was fun. We headed into intermission.
I did want to see Ron Simmons give Steve Guy a Dominator and then say damn, but he didn't do it.
I think everybody wanted to see it happen to the Duke, like, going into the show.
Oh, I was the only one who wanted to see Steve Guy get it.
Why would you What did Steve Guy ever do?
Oh, no reason. No reason. No. It has nothing to do with the angry Cleveland Cavaliers text that I get during the Knicks series. Nothing like that.
Same guy that when the Knicks lost, he never said anything.
I only talk trash, Mr. Summers, when I am pushed. And I was pushed from the Ohio winds, from the middle of the country. I did not do the pushing. I was the pushee, not the pusher. So I'm just answering back. That's all I'm saying.
Well, at least you're not a Yankees fan.
That's correct.
Because I think this will be the second week in a row that I can prove that a Yankees fan does not listen to this podcast.
Aha. Well, I will say this. I was watching the Rangers game at half at intermission because the Rangers are playing the Devils that night, and watching that and watching Pedro and crew, Austin James and crew, set up the steel cage. That was a sight to see. It was efficient and quick, and they put that thing together in no time, and that cage looked great, and it was easy to look at, and it was easy to watch on TV because I went back and looked at it again. All in all, what a cool way to start the second half of the show with that ridiculously big and ominous steel cage that they put in there. It was great.
I think what you're trying to say is let's move on to the next match.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we came back from intermission with Josh Prohibition and M-Dog 20 Euthanasia versus PME, Philly Collins, and Marino Tenaglia. And yes, during intermission, they put up this cage, which the only way I can describe it for those who didn't watch the show, weren't there, in a way, it's like the old Big Blue cage from WWE. As in, like, it wasn't this fencing type material that you see with most cages. It was more of that like square pattern, but instead I think with WWE, theirs was, I don't know if each side was one piece or two pieces. I want to say they were just all one giant piece.
No, each side had two pieces that interlocked. So each side had two pieces that kind of hooked over each other. And it went around like that. So there was 8 pieces, and the side with the door had the cutout with the door in it. And it was, it did look like the King Kong Bundy Hulk Hogan WrestleMania 2 steel cage that they got. I liked how it looked. You could see everything inside. It was not like one of those chain link fences, and it looked like it held together really well. It was sturdy. You had some good spots on it. It held up. I got worried for a minute, but then you didn't have to worry at all. Everything worked out nicely with that thing.
What I was referring to was WWE. The Big Blue cage was 4 giant pieces, one for each side. And the AIW ring was actually 3 for each side.
It was 3?
Yes, I'm looking at pictures of it right now.
Oh, okay. My mistake. But they were all interlocking pieces that went around the ring as opposed to one long side on each.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily throwing shade to anybody because I don't know who did it, but there were 2 parts of the cage that were ratchet strapped together because it looked like a piece had already bent on one of those interlocking arms. But
apparently they used it at the Gathering of the Juggalos last year as well.
I thought they just bought this recently.
This was when they went to Kentucky and bought it, so they've already used it once. My understanding.
Okay,
but let's talk about the match because we can all talk about how Philly Collins absolutely loves the business and bled buckets, literally buckets. There was blood everywhere in the ring, on the mat, on the cage, on the floor. His blood was everywhere.
Yeah, I think he loved the business more than anybody on this card.
Not as much more than Tom Dunn, referee Tom Dunn, who was bleeding a bit. But this was a crazy steel cage match. The cross jumping off the top, all the moves that they did off of like each other, off of the cage, using the cage for balance. It was just really well done, and I enjoyed it very, very much. I enjoyed the finish very much. Just the whole thing got everyone invested, and it was just a sight. It's something that you don't see that much of in AIW. We had that ladder match, the tag team ladder match, but the cage is always such a spectacle, and it feels so important. So if they only bust that out once a year, maybe twice a year, it would be beneficial to them because the cage looks great, and the match meant so much more.
Well, Josh, why was Tom Dunn bleeding?
He was bleeding because Papa Pep came out, and we had all sorts of problems in the ring.
Yeah, you think we're done with Papa Pep after the last show? No, you had Papa Pep come out, remove the lock, have an altercation with Tom Dunn. I couldn't exactly see, like, what was it? Tom Dunn tried to choke slam
Yes.
Papa Pep, but he couldn't.
Somebody interfered.
Nonetheless,
I thought
it was like he was trying to, but like maybe it was he got distracted by the like chain link, the chain around Papa Pep, and it turns out it was a chain of a new lock, because once they got rid of Tom Dunn, they put a new lock on. Oh, and they got M-Dog out of the cage.
Oh, that's right. And they were beating on Prohibition a bit.
Mm-hmm.
They brought out those cuffs that they didn't use, but then you had the dive from M-Dog who climbed the cage. Yeah, there was a lot going on.
Yeah, M-Dog was a little hesitant on like climbing up that cage at first, and I'm thinking like, M-Dog, you've jumped off a lot of crazy shit. You telling me you're not jumping up, or you're not, first thing you don't do is climb up that cage? Come on, man.
Yep. He went up there, and then they handcuffed Philly C and busted him open more and covered him with a plastic bag straight out of the movie Casino, and they beat him up and got the pinfall, and that was a sick ending. I loved it.
Oh, you can't forget too that J-Pro just wanted Philly to apologize.
Oh yeah.
And basically Philly said, fuck that.
There was a lot going on.
Yeah. Nonetheless, Euthanasia won via pinfall. And then they took down the cage, which did not take too long. I think the way they distracted people on the stream is you had Wadsworth and Dustin Alberti talking.
Yeah, Alberti and were you talking about for the cage match?
Like after the cage match, like when the cage was coming down.
Yeah, I haven't seen the intermissions or anything like that yet. I haven't gotten that far in the broadcast.
But I think Pam was close to me, and she had a stopwatch going, and it only took about 5 minutes.
Yep,
which is definitely not that bad.
Very impressive, especially for an independent show. Very impressive.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Filthy Tom Lawler versus Shaw Mason versus Chase Oliver versus Derek Dillinger for the AIW Intense Championship.
Classic AIW scramble. Classic.
One note that I have here is, man, we could really see Filthy Tom Lawler and Shawn Mason as a tag team. Like, I think they worked well together in this match when there was the time that they had to.
That's not a bad idea. Actually, it is not a bad idea. If they wanted to add to that tag team division, that would be a very, very interesting tag team.
And you have, Philly. Why I keep saying Philly. Filthy, kind of mentoring a student, helping him along the way. Yeah, I think that could be a really good one. Nonetheless, this match was fucking crazy.
Yep, it was really good. It was really hard hitting. There were some crazy spots. Shaw Mason looked great in a match that he was probably the smallest out of everyone. You got your Chase Oliver spots in, you got your Derek Power spots. Tom Lawler just doing what Tom Lawler does. It was exactly what was needed. I was actually glad, because I don't know if you saw the pattern. Derek's matches have been just before the main, and they're so crazy sometimes that the fans kind of run out of gas by the main event because you have to follow that match. So I was glad they had something in between Derek and the main event, because the Intense title shouldn't follow directly. The world title shouldn't follow directly after that. So I was glad that it was in the spot it was in. It was great. You still had crazy fans. Everybody was cheering. It was good stuff. Shaw Mason always has a lot of people there. It was awesome.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, you should have a lot of the titles, if not all of them, on the second half of the show. Obviously, there's reasons why that doesn't always happen that way, but having the Intense title match being second to last, or even for this matter, third to last, still does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I like it. I like it third. If it's not the main event that night, it should be on the second half, but not back to back with the main event. There's just too much going on in those matches that you need people to come down from because they're so crazy.
I think Butter said that a while ago, but then it kind of bit him in the ass because you did have Bishop versus Filthy be the main event, and the way that match unfolded, number one, needed to be the last match, and number two, you had you had a few surprises that really helped us stand things out.
Well, if you remember the last Akron show, it was that Paul London match, and then it went right into Filthy and Bishop. So that Janela, London, Derek, that match was batshit crazy, and there was no come down, and you had to go right into the main event. So I think that's why I like that match separating those two styles, because Bishop always wrestles a really intense style. Derek always wrestles a really intense style. So when you can separate them by a match or two, just to let people catch their breath, I think that works better.
Is there anything else to say about this match?
Chase Oliver was very tan.
Yes.
He was so tan.
And then he wears the green and yellow, and that actually like highlights it even more.
Yep. So very tan.
Everybody that owns a company that's listening to this, go book Chase Oliver.
Yeah.
It was Derek pinning Shaw Mason to retain the AIW Intense Championship.
With a very ugly curb stomp onto the title. I love that finish. It was great.
Yeah, Derek's already shared a bunch of pictures of it, the IWTV feed of it, I think it was. Yeah, it's not IWTV.
Good stuff.
Fight Plus. All right, let's move on to the next one. Kaplan versus Sam Holloway.
Listen, Sam Holloway, first of all, Kaplan needs no introduction, no nothing. But Sam Holloway, he's lost weight. His trunks are on point. He looks just like Mike Awesome. This was the match he needed. These two guys were behemoths slamming into each other. There was some big ass spots that Kaplan, his dive, throwing Sam out of the ring, Sam going like hitting his head against the barricades and going underneath. These guys are monsters. It was kaijus battling it out in the ring, and it's exactly what was needed. I love Sam Holloway. I think he's going to be a really, really big star. And Kaplan's the right guy to go against that night. It was great. I enjoyed that match. The second half of the show I loved. So you're not going to hear anything negative out of me on those matches. That was a great match, and God bless him for winning that match. I was real happy that he took it.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, Sam Holloway with the shocker of the night, pinning Kaplan for the win. Literally right after it happens, my eyes just shoot over to Butters, and like he like even holy shitted it. Like, I don't think any of us expected that. Like, maybe you wanted Sam to win, but it's like, it's Kaplan. This is an insane motherfucker. He hits hard, like a little bit seasoned vet compared to Sam Holloway. Fucking Sam pulls it off.
Yeah. Very pleased. Love seeing all the Sam Holloway fans. Love seeing, Kaplan selling his jerky before. Just that match was just two people who I enjoy. I could watch them on any card. And I know Kaplan does his own thing. I'd love to see him in like a GCW ring or like Action Pro Wrestling or just something. No one's ever seen a guy like him before. He just goes out there and just cannonballs himself through the ring. He's just fantastic. It was great. Great match. Way to separate those two title matches also. Just good stuff.
All right, let's move on to the main event. Josh Bishop versus Matt Cardona for the AIW Intense. Not the Intense, the Absolute Championship. I'm off today. But anyway.
You want to talk about tans. Both of these guys, fantastic tans. Absolutely. Matt Cardona's starting to look like my mother in the 80s when she would go to California and sit out in the sun all day long. His skin is going to look like a leather bag after a while. I mean, Matt Cardona is but he just exudes stardom. Everything he does feels big, and Bishop is just so he's come in 5 years, and I saw him in No Consequences or whatever. In the amount of time that I've seen him as that little skinny, long-haired kid to what he is now, he has got the look buttoned up. He knows exactly what he is. He knows exactly what he needs to do. it's a pleasure to watch two guys in the main event who are both main event stars. It really is. There's a lot of shenanigans. There's a lot of things that go on, but those two, when it's one-on-one with the two of them, they exude stardom.
Yeah, there was a lot of shit that happened in this match.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I necessarily remember all of it.
Yeah.
Because you had PME come out at one point. Obviously, you have Bill Alfonso and Steph DeLander coming out with Cardona. They played a part in all of this. And I'm just going to say this. I have learned something from two shows that were actually, I think, 1 year apart to the day. And that is, if you are wearing a cup to protect yourself from a low blow, don't take it out. You still might need it. We learned that last year with Cardona versus J-Pro, and we saw it again with Cardona versus Bishop. Like, literally kind of the same thing where it's just like, I've outsmarted you. I had a cup on, and they take it out. I'm like, come on. Like, just be like, I got a cup on.
That's like when every time somebody goes for the spear and he's wearing like a chest protector, and then they pull the chest protector out to show it off, as opposed to just letting it sit till the end of the match, right? And then you show it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a good point. I will say this. There was a lot. I think there was too much that went into this main event as far as shenanigans goes. One thing that I will ask the question of the AIW locker room, and I asked everyone who was sitting next to me. Austin James was behind me. Jocelyn, members only. Hey, why won't anybody get in the ring and help Bishop? Why does everybody watch as Bishop and as Philly Marino and DeLander and Fonzie? They all just take advantage of Bishop. When is there going to be some way to keep that interference out of the ring? As we saw earlier, when is there going to be some sort of cage, some sort of stipulation? There's too much interference in the main event scene with Cardona. That's the one gripe I have with Cardona. He's first of all, he's so big. He doesn't need 9 million guys helping him out at the end. There has to be a point where Cardona doesn't need interference in a match. That's my one gripe about this match, is that, and if there is going to be interference, Bishop should get help from the AIW locker room, since everybody hates Cardona, supposedly, in the locker room, right? So why can't anyone else help him?
Everything you just said is, well, not everything, but like part of what you just said is the same shit I've heard about people bitching about Roman Reigns. And I kind of say the same reaction that I had for them. It works.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't work.
Oh, no,
I'm saying for me, my only gripe is that I'd like to see them go one-on-one. I don't care about the interference, but it can't happen every time. Give me a match. Give me a match with the two of them, one-on-one.
What I'm talking about that it works is from the point of view of Matt Cardona.
Right.
This is how I'm doing it. It works. Same thing with Roman. Like, I've literally heard people say, like, oh, it's he always wins his matches the same way. It's always Solo or the Usos. It's like, yeah, it's a numbers game, and it works for him every single time. The point I would guess is someone has to overcome that numbers factor. And yeah, it felt like, and I mean, maybe it always does feel like it was Cardona. Like, you feel like it's close and then something happens and it tilts it the other way. And the thing that I'm really interested to see where we go is you did have Wes come out and help. You also had Swoggle come out, and I was like, oh, whose side is he on? Like, yeah, he just tagged with Wes, but we know he doesn't really like Wes and Bishop that much. Like, obviously Cardona's one of his good friends.
Well, he did give Cardona the old in the bag move, so
And then on top of that, the best stunner I have ever seen, fucking Swoggle doing it to Cardona. Like,
super Swoggle stunner right there.
That popped me, and I'm like, okay, where are we going with Swoggle, Bishop, and Wes, and then where are we going with Swoggle and Cardona? Yeah. Like, I don't think we're going to have Swoggle versus Cardona for the title. That could be a fun match, but to me, I don't think it seems likely. but I think we're definitely doing something because, you don't just pull that stunner out of nowhere. But yeah, there were a lot of other shit that happened. I think that's what kind of makes these matches so interesting, because I thought Cardona was going to win, but we were getting the Absolution match that we didn't get. So I could have easily seen Bishop winning.
I mean, I agree. I wanted Bishop to win anyway. I mean, I just didn't see. I couldn't see why Cardona needed to hold it any longer, or even get it back and you could give it right back to Bishop. But it is what it is. I mean, he lost. I guess they'll have some place to go as far as Gauntlet or J-Lit or something. But at some point, I get concerned that what happens to Bishop when he's not chasing for the title? That's there. I start to get concerned for him.
I don't want to say Bishop doesn't need the title, but Bishop could also go after the tag titles again. That's not necessarily a demotion, because we all like to see him and West together.
Oh, I would be fine with the Rip City Shooters having a title run again. But why? But then you think about Wes, and maybe it's Wes's turn to hold some gold. You know what I mean? Like, it's a strange spot as far as where AIW is. They have a handful of guys that are ready to take a leap. So how do you get them there?
I would say one at a time. And then also some of them, you don't necessarily have to have them be around the title. Like, I'll use, for example, it's the same thing, but a little different, is PME. PME, great tag team. Former tag team champions, and they should realistically always be in title contention one way or another. But that division is so stacked. If you can find a place for somebody like PME or a wrestler in general that is, they're away from the title picture, but they're still doing something that gets you invested, like the euthanasia storyline.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that it takes. Like, no one thinks like, oh, like PME should be going after the tag titles. They shouldn't be worrying about euthanasia. No, it's like, we want to see that. We wanted to see this story. We wanted to see what was going to happen at the last show. Like, would PME? Well,
but PME were kind of listless for a little bit. They struggled after they lost the tag titles. After they were out of the picture, and they kind of floated aimlessly for a few months before they joined up with Cardona and went heel. So, I don't want to see anybody have to, like, kind of, what do they call it? Become kind of stagnant. But that's what happened to PME before they found their niche now, which is, they're really good bad guys. So, I just wonder how you get to the next steps with some of these guys who are ready to take those next steps. That's all. Not in a bad way. That's a good problem to have. You have a bunch of guys who are ready to be stars. So, yeah. But it was a good match. The ending was all over the place, but it was what it was, and didn't hurt the way I felt about the match or the show. I thought the whole thing was great. So.
Yeah, it was Cardona pinning Bishop to retain the AIW Absolute Championship, and I think according to Cardona that he's saying Bishop doesn't get any more title shots.
When did he say that?
I believe I think he said it on this week's Major Wrestling Figure podcast that hasn't aired yet.
Oh.
But I've heard it.
Well, then it's time to see where that goes.
Because he could say that, but there is like a little loophole. There's still Gauntlet.
Yep.
So, well, maybe Bishop wins back-to-back gauntlets. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. That would be very interesting. Or he wins J-Lit. You never know. We'll see what happens down the line.
All right. Any final thoughts or last minute plugs before we go?
Yeah, on Twitter, I'm JGold12, Instagram JGold12, and then you can find me on my podcast, the Indie Wrestling Guide. On Twitter, it's IWGuide1. And you can check out all of our episodes on there. And we also have a YouTube page, Indie Wrestling Guide. So check it out and check me out on Twitter.
Hey, who won that AIW draft episode?
Marcy. She won by 1 percentage point.
Was it one? I thought it was a bit more than that.
No, it was 1 point.
Oh, poor Jayhawk.
Yep.
All right. Of course, you can find myself at jsummers330 on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, much like you can find the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Facebook.com/WrestlingCheers, Twitter.com/WrestlingCheers, and Instagram.com/WrestlingCheers. Email, if you so choose to desire, WrestlingCheers@gmail.com. And let's go over those places that you can listen to this show, where you can rate, review, and subscribe. That would be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Amazon Music, or Podbean, WrestlingCheers.podbean.com. And in the show notes, there is a Linktree link to all of them. Check out our podcast friends, such as Hiya Bussy, Super Fantastic Podcast, The IndieCast, Sobros Network, Biff Radio, Game Marks Podcast, Powerbomb Jitsu, Pile Driver Podcast, Fully Posable, Positively Pro Wrestling, Indie Wrestling Guide, If You Catch My Grift, At Odds with Wrestling, Marks with Mikes, Juggalo Rewind, X Over, This Ends at Prom, and Porch Talk. Check out our other non-podcasting friends, such as The Mystery Men, Redline Radio, Mouse's Wrestling Adventures, VHS Party Tonight on Instagram, Danger Zone Video in Joliet, Tennessee, Heart of Gold, Ohio Toy Show, Time Capsule Toys, Smokin' Jay's Barbecue, 20x20 Apparel, JCP Designs, Midwest Territory, Southern Underground Pro, and the official graphic designer of Wrestling Cheers, Moy Boy Designs. That will do it for us here on Wrestling Cheers, where everybody knows your name, especially if you're the Intense Champion and you go on before the main event. Later.
Later.
It's the Wrestling Cheers. Get up on your feet, brightening your day in the middle of the week. And you gotta love the show. Yeah, you know it holds a title for the best podcast. Talking wrestling in Ohio. Finishing a cold one, take a load off. We ain't all about the prohibition like Josh, so we cheers. And then we sit back. Other shows are in the trash, kinda like they Nick Stapp. Like the name is Matt Justice, wearing all the gold. Wrestling Cheers is coming to a close. The #1 podcast going in the game. And one day everybody's gonna know the name. It's the Wrestling Cheers. This is Platinum Max, signing off. Ohio, good night. The world, good night. We love you. We'll see you next week.